Hi, Kate.
Hello, Jodi.
I'm excited to talk to you about these children's books. Since we started our bookshelf on the Second Mother page, we have so many wonderful books by foster and adoptive moms now. I have been wanting to then have a section about children's books about adoptions. Why don't you start off by just telling them a little bit about you, where you live, and what's your motherhood journey? You
Yeah,
have beautiful girls.
I do. I do. I have five daughters, and they are so much fun, and I love being a girl mom. They range in age from second grade up to a senior in high school. So I'm enjoying kind of this last year with everyone all together.
Mm.
Well, we started fostering back in 2010, I think. So quite a while ago, back when there were not the kind of supports that there are today. So I feel like that colored a lot of our early journey, just feeling a little bit isolated in that.
Sure.
So we have fostered quite a few kiddos throughout 14 years or so of
Bless
being
you.
licensed there. And that has been so fun and so hard and so rewarding and just all of it.
All
Um,
the adjectives.
all of it, all of it. And we ended up adopting our fifth daughter. So she is adopted through foster care, and then the other kiddos are biological.
And so how old is your adopted daughter?
She's in second grade.
Second grade. And she's the baby.
She's the baby, yes. She came to us from another foster home when she was still quite little. And then we adopted her when she was about 2.5.
Well, if she's anything like my youngest daughter, who is also adopted, she will be forever the baby. I have five daughters also, so that's something fun that we have in common. My first adoption was in 1995. And there were no children's books about adoption. And I remember going into an, like you said, pre-smartphone, pre-internet, going into an old-fashioned bookstore and asking for books about adoption. And there was one book called The Chosen Baby. And it was like a mysterious closed adoption, where the stork brought the baby. So I'm thrilled for you to tell the story of all the babies this morning. And then your other book, which is so beautiful because it helps children understand when hard things happen. So can you show us all the babies? I was just reading it to my 2-year-old granddaughter, and she loves it. Such a pretty book.
It is such a pretty book. The illustrations are just gorgeous. The illustrator's name is Judy Abbott, and she just did a really wonderful job and just portrayed the families so beautifully. And I love that there's just so many different situations represented, and kids can go
Yes.
through and they can find that part's like me, and that part's like me, and that part's like a friend. And so this is kind of the book that I wish that I had had when my daughter was really young, but even now I still love this as a resource and as a talking tool for her. I think sometimes because our kids' stories are so hard, we don't even really know how to talk to our own kids about all the different complex parts. And I think it's so useful to have a tool, to have something tangible, something that's beautiful with pictures and illustrations that you can kind of go through and look at together to pick out different things. And there's just a lot of ways to use this book. And yeah.
Yes, you did a great job, like describing all the scenarios. Why don't you show one little section inside? Because I just
Yeah.
love the book.
Um, I'll show this is kind of my favorite page
There you go.
because of the illustrations more so than even the words. But this is just kind of the one of the introductions here to adoption, saying Opal was born from another mommy's big bump tummy, and then she was adopted, and Opal became part of a different family. But what I
Mhm.
love here in this, I did request that the illustrator do this, but on this little bookshelf, there's a picture of Opal with her birth mom and a
Oh,
picture of Opal with her adoptive parents. And
yes.
I love, I know that not all kids have a picture with a birth
Yes.
parent, but I just think that's really beautiful to show that respect and honor that connection that all kids feel, whether or not they
Yes.
have
Yeah.
something visual to connect it with. But I like to talk to kids about how happy things and sad things can be true at the same time.
Oh
Because
gosh, that's so great. We're still trying to figure that out as adults, right?
yeah, I think sometimes we want to categorize it, right? Like this is bad, this is hard, this is
Mhm.
sad, and this is good, this is easy. But I think it's important to talk about two things being true at once. So we say, is it sad that Opal couldn't stay with her birth mom? And everyone agrees, yes, that's so sad. But is it happy that Opal can be adopted into this new family? And yes, that is happy. Um, but yeah,
I'm glad you chose that page because actually, when I was reading it to my granddaughter, she focused on that and I showed her, see, there's the baby with her mommy and there's her new mommy and her new daddy. And since our family is racially diverse, I think she found it especially interesting because, she has aunties and uncles that don't look like her. And, to her, they're just her aunties and uncles. So she was very fascinated by this page. And that was so wise of you to include the picture of the birth mom. Thank you for that sensitivity and for doing that. I remember when I completed that 1995 adoption, the social worker at the time did have the wisdom to tell me the one thing that adopted children want is a picture of their birth mother, just to know what she looks like. And so I savored having one. And they said when she asks, just show it to her so that she can see. So you're very wise to include that in the book and let the book be have that talking point. And I love what you said about sad things and happy things. So that's a great segue to your second book, which did the books both come out the same year? I was
they
looking
did,
at it.
yeah. Yeah, one was
Wow.
kind of in the spring, one was in the fall. So it was a busy and
Wow.
fun year. Yeah.
It sure was.
With
Yeah.
the same publisher. And so I think that that was helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
yeah,
show us the second book. Ah, When God Makes Scribbles Beautiful. What a magnificent title.
yeah,
So tell us about this book and show us a little bit inside.
yeah. I wrote this book, this manuscript, originally after an extra special foster care placement that we had. His placement was hard. His life was so hard. And I feel like I had a little bit of a crisis of faith as we were preparing for him to leave our home.
Mhm.
And I have always just really believed that God is good.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so that is what I wanted to hold on to, but I was having such a hard time seeing where that goodness was for
Mhm.
this little preschool aged boy who we had in our house. He had just a tremendous amount of medical needs. His medications filled my entire kitchen counter. He was
Wow.
all of his feedings by a nasogastric tube. He had sometimes a dozen seizures a day. He had
Oh
to have
my.
assistive devices for walking. His life was just really, really hard.
Mm.
And he was such a precious little kid. And I just was having a really hard time reconciling all of this and imagining what his future would
Yeah.
be like.
Yeah.
Not being able to maintain contact with him and knowing how much I would worry about him after he left. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to write down all the things that I know to be true, even if I'm having a hard time believing it right now, because I think sometimes we have to preach to ourselves a little bit.
Oh,
Uh,
girl, every day. Every day.
yes. So this absolutely did not start out with an intent to be a picture book. This was a pep talk for me, is what this.
Mhm.
So the first thing that I wrote down that I knew to be true comes from John 16, verse 33, which is, in this world, we will have trouble. So it
Mm.
helps me to not feel blindsided by this,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
promised us, like, you are going to have trouble. So I think that was probably the first thing that I wrote down. And then I just kind of kept going on from there. And the very first page of this book, um, is here, and it says, sometimes hard things happen. And it
Mm,
might feel like a dark scribble. So that was from that very first promise that hard things happen. And I think that that's so important for us to acknowledge that because, um,
yes.
yeah, and even, I mean, this book is, it doesn't talk specifically about what the hard thing is. So when I talk to kids about this, we
Right.
talk about all the things that it could be, right? Like this could
Right.
be the death of a loved one. This could be
Right.
divorce of parents. This could be entering foster care. This could be you know,
Mhm.
getting bullied at school. There's so many things that this could be. But even for kids who aren't experiencing something hard necessarily, I think it's so important to normalize that so that when something hard does come, oh
Of
yeah.
course, we all will eventually, right? So to
Mhm.
start teaching a child that is just so wise, Kate, because so many of us, when we're small, at least the way I was brought up, you were sheltered from everything. And then when something tragic does happen, you're just reeling because there's no discussion of feelings or that crisis of faith that you experienced. And thank you for having the vulnerability to share that. So tell us how the book evolves and what would you say is the takeaway message, or how did you, as adults we struggle with this, right? So share
Yeah.
with our community how you kind of wrapped this for the child.
Yeah. So it talks about, you know, that hard thing and then some of the feelings that we might have, sad, lonely,
Mhm.
scared, angry, maybe all of it at the same time. And then what do you do with it? And you can try all these
Right.
different things to get rid of it on your own, and you can't until you say, God help me. And
Yeah.
so I love
So beautiful.
introducing prayer to kids
Yes.
like this. Is prayer something that's really hard and complicated? No, all we have to say is, God help me. That's a whole prayer. Um,
Mhm.
and then we talk about how sometimes it takes a long time. And so then this little guy is waiting, but how God gives him everything that he needs while he waits. And then uh, there's kind of a main text, but then there's also Bible verses that's in a different font. So you can kind of go back and look at those later. We usually just read the words to start, and then we see where the truth is that comes right from the Bible. So like on
And
this,
mom and dad might need the Bible verses too.
we all
Right,
need Bible verses for
right.
sure. But this one comes from Second Peter, and it says, the Lord is not slow in doing what he promised. And so, you know, this is kind of talking about that timing and that waiting
Yes,
period here. And
yes.
almost every spread has a Bible verse that's included with that. And then eventually that scribble, it says that God mixes in love and light, and he turns it into something beautiful. And
Mhm.
near the end, this little character, he finds another little girl, and she has a scribble. And so he's able to share his hope with her.
Mm,
And I just love that. We get the
I
Bible
love
from
to.
Second Corinthians that says that God comforts us so that we can comfort others. And so we get to see this child doing that in a really special way.
What
And
a magnificent, magnificent book. I read a lot of children's books these days to my grandkids, and that is just a magnificent book, Kate. And it's so touching to me. It almost chokes me up because you really suffered. You suffered over that little boy. Um, that must have been such a hard placement, just taking care of him. You would have had to put your whole heart, soul, and being into caring for him. And I can hear when you're talking about him how much that you loved him. And, I'm sure you still think of him all the time. And so, um, I'm always sharing with our community that God doesn't waste our suffering. And when I look at that magnificent book, just a magnificent book, and I've not seen anything like it for children with that kind of theology and message. As much as you suffered, he made something so beautiful out of it. So thank you for having the courage to really turn your pain into something beautiful. And before we wrap up, I want them to see the little cards. Will you
yeah,
explain about
so
the little cards?
yes, these are available on my website and on my publisher's website. So you can just print them off yourself at home and you don't even have to buy the book to get the cards.
Oh,
But they go there, it's all the Bible verses that are in the book are on these, along with a question. So it's kind of hard to see maybe, but this says, what can we do with our worries? And then our answer is a Bible verse. And I love that this teaches us when we have questions, we go with
Yes.
questions, we go to the Bible with our questions. And so the verse that answers that is 1 Peter 5, verse 7. And it says, give all your worries to God because he cares for you. So there's a whole
Magnificent.
little packet of questions that kids might have, that adults might have,
Yes.
Bible verses that go with that. So this is a really fun resource that my publisher helped to put out. And then for all of their books, they make a parent connection sheet. So this is also available on my website or the publisher's website. And I feel like this is a little bit like your child's first book club is what it feels like.
Oh,
It's just
nice.
extra discussion questions. How can we go a little bit deeper into the messages that these books
I
hold?
love
So
that.
that's a really nice resource.
Oh, will you tell folks you mentioned your website? I'll put it in the lower third, but can you just explain how folks can connect with you or find out more?
Yeah, my website is just my name, so it's katereitema.com. And then I'm on Instagram and Facebook as well with the same name. For Facebook, it's I think Kate Rietema, children's author, maybe.
So both the books came out last year. So are you going to keep writing books?
Yeah, I have another one coming out this year, but it's completely different from these other two. It's a nonfiction picture book about a
Right.
conservation topic. So it's totally different, but this just got me so excited about the process.
And you said conservation, like taking care of our earth. Is that what you mean?
Well, so it's actually a book about cheetahs. It's just this really amazing story.
Oh,
Cheetahs
lovely.
became extinct in India like 70 years ago, and they're just now being reintroduced with cheetahs from Africa. And so it's the
Oh,
story of how that happened. So it's
wow.
for wildlife conservation. Yeah.
Well, that sounds great. I can't wait to read it.
Oh, it's very fun.
I
So
don't know
anyway.
about the cheetahs, but I'm a fan. Well, thank you so much. It's lovely to connect to you. And I just look forward to your work and appreciate you giving us these resources for our kids and grandkids. It's really special and keep them coming.
Thank you. Well, thank you for helping to share these resources because I just want to get these items into as many little hands as possible. And
Yes.
I love your support and kind of getting that word out there even more. So thank you, Jodi. It was
Yes. And I'm sure moms who watch this will also help spread the word. So, all right. God bless you.
you too. Thank you, Jodi.